Today, I'm going to be telling you the 5 best skills that you should start learning as a complete beginner in calisthenics. We're going to be covering an upper body push skill, an upper body pulling skill, a core skill, a balance skill, and a lower body skill. And I will be sharing with you progressions that are specific to each skill, as well as how you can develop the strength base that is going to furthermore help you get to that skill. By the way, hi, I'm Emily. I make videos about calisthenics and fitness and intuitive movement and how you can enjoy movement in your life, how it can add to your life, and how it can be something that makes you feel good and not just like a chore you have to do. Now, when I give you all these skills, I'm gonna tell you the exercises specific to them. But before we get into that, if you want to achieve any of these skills, I would highly recommend that you work on your strength base. What I found is I personally got so many skills, not even by doing the progressions that would get me there, but by simply focusing on developing my overall strength, and the skills just came. So I'm gonna tell you first how you can develop that strength base, the best exercises for that, and then we'll get into the skills and all of those progressions. When I talk about this strength base, what I'm talking about is upper and lower body pushing, upper and lower body pulling strength, core stabilization, and mobility work. Those are the general areas that are good to think about as a beginner starting to train. So pushing strength can be developed by exercises such as your push-up or your kneeling push-up, your pike press up, or your hand elevated pike press up as an easier modification. Different dip variations such as your bodyweight dip or your bar assisted dip, your resistance band assisted dip, your bench dip. Now, pushing strength for legs can be developed by all of the squat variations. If you think about lunges, if you think about box step ups. Now, great exercises to develop your pulling strength for upper body is gonna be all of your pull up and chin up progressions. So think about your bar assisted chin up, think about your Australian row, think about your resistance band assisted pull up, and many other pulling variations. But those are good ones to start with. Now, talking about lower body pulling, you can think about your TRX or yoga ball hamstring curls. You can think about your one-legged deadlift. Core strength is going to be developed by those hanging knee raises, hanging leg lifts, or laying on the floor leg lifts as a more easier progression. Also using different plank variations. So I like to play around and do one-legged, one-arm plank, as well as side plank with a dip extension, and hollow holds. Lots of different core movements you can play around with. Now, those exercises are going to be great to build your foundational strength. So incorporate some of those exercises into each of your workouts, and then add in some of these skill progressions that I'm about to go through here. What I want you to do is listen to all of these and try and get an idea of which one or maybe 2 skills sounds the most interesting for you to really focus on during your workouts. Don't stress if you think all of them are really interesting sounding. Just pick 1 or 2 to start with, and then once you get those, just move on to the next ones. And you just continue to stack your skills over time. Plus, building that foundational strength is gonna make it easier for you to get those skills faster. So without further ado, let's get into the 5 best beginner calisthenics skills that you can start with. Now, skill number 1 is gonna be a classic, the chin up or the pull up. And of these skills, the pull-up is one of the more exciting calisthenics bodyweight moves. If you've never gotten your pull-up before, getting your first pull-up, you're like, oh, look at me, I can do it. Now, there's a slight difference between the pull-up and the chin-up. In the chin-up, your hands are going to face towards your body like this. Now, in the pull-up, your hands are gonna face away from the body like this. And once you master your pull-up, you continue to make it harder by changing up how far your hands are apart. The actual pulling movement, if you bring your body higher over the bar, it's gonna be harder than just bringing your chin to the bar. So there are lots of different movements you can play with to make these harder. The chin-up, though, uses slightly more bicep than the pull-up. And a lot of beginners start with a little bit more bicep strength, which makes it a slightly easier exercise to get to. So if you wanna start on focusing getting your first chin up, then that will help you in your steps and your training to get your first pull up too. The main exercise progressions that you're going to use in order to get your pull up or your chin up are going to be your bar assisted chin up, hanging scapular retractions, chin up isometric holds at the top of the bar, pull up negatives, resistance band assisted pull ups, and the dead hang. Now, when you're working towards your pull-up, the limiting factors you're gonna find are going to be your grip strength, lifting yourself initially off the ground, which is gonna be mostly your back, or locking out at the top, which is gonna be mostly your bicep. To start with, if you can't even hang from the bar, you find yourself keep slipping, or it's really hard to hold your body weight, you're gonna wanna really focus on your grip strength. Now, basically all of these exercises that I just said are going to over time improve your grip strength because hanging from the bar is a great way to improve your grip strength. One exercise that's gonna be really useful for you is the dead hang or the bar assisted dead hang, where you you'll hang from a bar that's slightly lower so you can support yourself with your feet on the floor in order to really push off that floor and make it a slightly easier exercise. You're gonna wanna build up your grip strength using these exercises in order to continue to progress in your pull-up. Now, if you can't pull up from hanging, and you can hang from the bar, but you can't actually get yourself going in that first part, it's probably going to be a weakness in your back muscles. So exercises that are gonna be amazing for you here to continue to strengthen your back so you can pull off the ground are going to be your pull-up negatives, your Australian rows, your resistance band assisted pull-ups, and your scapular retractions. Make sure with your pull-up negatives that you're trying to focus on going really slow, especially at the bottom of the hold. Now, if you can pull up halfway, first of all, congratulations, very exciting, but you can't quite lock it out, it's probably going to be a weakness in either your biceps or some of the smaller muscles in your upper back. So some exercises you're gonna wanna focus on in order to get that upper half of your pull-up are going to be your bar assisted chin-up, your chin-up holds at the top, and your pull-up negatives, once again with a really slow release, especially at the top portion. Now, just a heads up, in order to get your first pull-up, it's essentially just building up enough muscle to pull your body weight off the ground. So all of these exercises are gonna really help you build up the right muscles that will help you pull yourself up. Moving on to skill number 2, it's gonna be our body weight dip. Now, you might be thinking at this point, these aren't skills, these are just body weight essentials. But if you're a complete beginner and you can't do the body weight essentials yet, these are basically skills that you need to get in order to continue. So I can make a beginner's part 2 guide if you're interested, but just wait and see the rest of the skills because some of them align with the more classical skill. But it's super important to get your body weight dip and doing a full range of motion, not like a half rep, but going all the way down and all the way up, building that full range of motion that we need in order to be functional is much harder to do than to say. So some major progressions to get your body weight dip are not only going to be your bench dip, but progressing on to using a resistance band or a machine in order to assist yourself when you're doing your body weight dip. If you have parallel bars that are higher off the ground where you can assist yourself with one foot, that's also a progression before you get onto your full body weight dip. So when you're starting with your bench dip, you can use 2 feet to support yourself to help, but then move on to using 1 leg and eventually no legs in order to make it harder. And that's the same for your normal dip. If you use your legs to assist a little, taking them away, it's gonna be harder. So if you track your progress here, you're gonna be able to see how you progress over time because it's gonna get easier and you're gonna do harder progressions before you get to your body weight dip. Other strength exercises that use your shoulders and your triceps, which are really important in your body weight dip, are also gonna help. So think about your pike press ups or your hand elevated pike press ups, as well as push-ups. These are all gonna support building that muscle that's gonna help you in your body weight dip. Skill number 3, we finally made it. We finally made it. It's gonna be our handstand. You guys know, I love a good handstand. Of these skills, the handstand and the pull-up, probably my favorites, but the handstand, come on. Love it. And I've made lots of videos before on complete handstand workouts as well as handstand progressions, but just to go through it really quick is a cool skill because it's not only strength, but it's a combination of strength as well as mobility and balance and body coordination. So even if you can hold yourself against a wall, hold your whole body weight, that doesn't necessarily mean you can do the handstand because it's not only holding it, having that strength, but it's also being able to balance and having the specific strength that you need. So in your hands as well as your scapulas, and having that correct body positioning so that you can actually, not fall over when we're upside down on our hands. So let's chat handstand progressions. I'm gonna go from easiest to hardest here. Make sure you have a really good handstand warm up before you get into all these. I have a full handstand tutorial with a really thorough handstand warm up, so I'll link that below in case you're working on your handstand. You can check that out. But once you've done a really thorough handstand and shoulder warm up, hitting all the good stuff, starting from easiest and going to hardest in handstand progressions, we have our box assisted handstand, our box half handstand, wall walks, the wall half handstand, and wall endurance holds both facing away from the wall and facing towards the wall. A side note, if you do wall handstand holds but you're facing the wall, this is gonna be slightly better for developing body positioning. But in my personal opinion, if you face away from the wall when you kick up into the wall handstand, it's really useful in developing shoulder strength as well as being comfortable being upside down because being upside down is one of the hardest parts initially about being in a handstand. We're not used to having our heads that close to the floor and using our strength to support ourselves. So it's completely normal for you to be a little freaked out if the mental barrier is something holding you back from kicking up into your handstand. So here, what I would recommend recommend is, in addition to all these progressions that I'm talking about here, that you actually practice doing kick-up drills and just getting comfortable bailing out of your handstand, because once you get more comfortable with falling out, you'll be more comfortable kicking up. Even being able to do the handstand, the reason that I'm comfortable is because I know I can come down safely. So to practice coming down safely and bailing out, you're gonna practice your cartwheel progression where you lift one hand off, cartwheel out on the ground. I have that in my tutorial down below too. If you practice cartwheels on the floor, that's a good way of getting comfortable being upside down, as well as kicking up into a handstand where you face away from the wall. But now if you use one leg to support yourself on the wall, you get more comfortable moving your hips and holding yourself upside down while not necessarily being in the perfect alignment. And that can help your brain get used to you being upside down and also getting ready to fall out. Now, another limiting factor about whether you can get your handstand or not is going to be how well you're able to position your body. And this comes down to hand strength and alignment. So to talk about hand strength first, one thing that's going to be helpful is just having more time being in these holds and practicing really pushing through the floor and pressing your hands into the floor hard. Kind of like our feet, we press into our feet pretty hard, especially when we're walking. So we have to develop that, really press into the floor, push through your fingers in order to stabilize yourself. Talking about alignment really quick, all of the drills I just mentioned, in all of these, you want to focus on stacking your hips over your shoulders, over your wrists. So we want our whole body to be in a nice straight line to start with our normal floor handstand so that it's as easy as possible for us to hold ourselves upside down. If you think about it, if we push our butt out or if our shoulders are like this, it's going to take much more work for our shoulders to hold ourselves in the correct position when our body is farther from that center line of balance. Now, just a heads up, the handstand is not a super easy skill for a lot of beginners to get in the beginning. So it's okay if you fall over a lot, if you fail a lot, just get comfortable with falling over and failing, because that's what everyone does in calisthenics. The people who look like they're doing really cool skills, they're just falling over and failing on harder stuff. So don't be worried about that. Now, an easier progression than the handstand, if you want to do something that's still an inversion where you're upside down, but isn't necessarily quite as challenging as the handstand, is the headstand and crow pose. So for the headstand, you're going to use your forearms to support yourself on the ground. So you're still inverting, and this can help build up shoulder strength and your level of comfort with being upside down. I don't love the headstand as a progression to the handstand because I do feel like a limiting factor in your handstand is going to be how hard you can push through the floor, and in the headstand you don't use your hands at all. So yes, it's good for your shoulders and being upside down, but this isn't the best handstand progression. The crow pose, on the other hand, you're pressing through the floor with your hands. You're going to align your knees onto your triceps right behind your elbows, and then shift your weight forwards and then lift your feet off the floor in order to get into a crow pose. This is a balance pose. It's a bit of maneuvering. This one's fun to play around with too, maybe at the end of your workout, maybe towards the beginning of your workout when you're warmed up. Just have some fun with it. Skill number 4 is gonna be, drum roll, our L-sits. So we've moved on to our core skill here today. Now, to achieve the L-sit, you're going to need a strong core as well as scapular strength and mobility, and hip flexor and leg strength. I know this one's kind of like a little bit of everything, but especially core compression. You need that in order to lift your body off the floor and stabilize as you bring your legs up. Your hip flexors and legs you need in order to maintain a straight leg position and pull them off the floor. I mean, if your hip flexors are too weak, you're not gonna be able to lift your legs from the floor. You need strong scapulas to push down into the floor, lift your butt and your legs off the floor as far as possible to make the exercise as easy as possible. Now, if you can't hold your legs straight out when you're trying to do an L set, you need to focus on your hip flexors and your legs. Hamstring stretches can also be really essential during this, especially if you don't have the hamstring mobility. For these, I would recommend standing forward fold as well as sitting reach with straight legs on the floor. Just make sure that you're warmed up when you're stretching so you get the most out of training for this skill. Just think, if your hamstrings are tight, it's going to be harder for you to lift your legs because they're going to be closer to the floor. So if we stretch our hamstrings, it allows us to flatten our leg out. If we develop our hip flexor strength, then that means we can help hold our leg up. All this is going to allow you to lift your body better off of the floor. Now, progressions to develop your hip flexor strength include hanging leg lifts, as well as standing or sitting straight leg lifts. Now, if you can lift your legs straight while sitting, but you can't get your body off of the floor, that means we need to work on our scapulas and our shoulder strength, as well as our core. So there are lots of amazing core compression exercises. One of my favorites is going to be plank into downward dog. Also, hanging knee raise is a great one. Now, one good progression to work on your scapular strength is going to be sitting in that L-sit position, but elevate your hands to make it slightly easier, and then use your feet to assist. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna practice pushing your shoulder blades down your back and pushing your hands into the floor before relaxing back into that normal position. And each of these is gonna be a rep, and you're gonna do between 8 to 12 reps in order to develop that strength. To make it slightly harder, just use less weight with your legs or lift one leg off the ground. And over time, that will help you develop your scapular strength and also your core compression skills. Now, progressions to help get your L-sit once you've got all of this going on are gonna be your L-sit with one leg lifts while you're on parallettes, your tuck L-sit, and alternating single leg L-sit holds. And once you've mastered your L-sit, you're gonna be on your track in order to get your V-set as well as your toe to bars and other cool core compression exercises. Skill number 5 now is gonna be your pistol squat. So we've moved on to our leg skill here. So for the pistol squat, we're thinking about a lot of quad strength as well as mobility and balancing on your foot. Some exercises that are gonna be amazing to work on your pistol squat include deep squats. So getting that full range in motion, moving your butt all the way down to your ankles and then standing up. Also, you can practice doing your pistol squat, but sitting back onto an elevated bench or a box, which will make the exercise slightly easier because you're not doing the full range down to the pistol squat. So it's kind of like a half rep, and that will help you develop strength to get to your full pistol squat. One of my favorite personal exercises to get your pistol squat is gonna be your one leg bench toe taps. But if your one leg bench toe tap is hard, you can do one leg bench toe tap negatives. And then the final progression that I recommend you try out is gonna be your bar assisted pistol squat, which is where you hold the bar with your hands in order to assist yourself, but only enough to help you just that little bit. And you're mostly working on pressing through one leg and lifting the other as you stand. Now, if you're struggling to hold one leg up, that means you need to work on your hip flexor strength. So doing those hamstring exercises that I mentioned during the L-sit progression is gonna help you, as well as doing one leg balance around the world drills. And squatting or sitting on a bench while lifting one leg up. You can also play around with sitting on the floor and lifting your legs either in a straddle or a pike position. And the farther that your hands move away, the harder the exercise will be. Wow, we really went through all of that. That covers the 5 beginner calisthenics skills that I would recommend that you start with as a complete beginner in calisthenics. We covered upper body pushing, upper body pulling, lower body core, and then our balance handstand skill. So our pull up, our dip, our handstand, our L-sit, and our pistol squat. These were the first 5 skills that I personally got as a calisthenics beginner. They're gonna help you develop your base strength and allow you to continue to progress to harder skills as you continue to get stronger. By the way, this is video number 3 in our calisthenics starter pack series. In this series, I'm breaking down everything that's gonna help you start training calisthenics, everything I wish I knew when I started calisthenics, so I'm breaking it all down for you. And now that you know exactly what skills to start with and the exercise progressions on how to get there, hopefully you were thinking about which 1 to 2 skills you like the most, and now you've picked those. In the next video, we're gonna be talking about exactly how to structure your calisthenics workouts so you can get the most bang for your buck and make sure that you cover your strength base but still can progress on skills. And I'm also gonna be talking about mindset shifts that I found really, really useful when I started calisthenics as a beginner. So if you're interested in any of that, don't forget to hit subscribe and the little notification bell so that you don't miss those videos. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up to let me know. I will see you all in the next video. Bye.